Welcome to this presentation. My name is Acsa Sifa, and I am a student at South New Hampshire University, majoring in Bachelor's of Art in Communication with concentration in business. So this research is about the contribution of gender equality policy for the well-being of women in Rwanda. So the case study is of Kimirongo sector, Kasabo district. So please go with us through this research presentation. The outline of this research is we will have to go through the motivation, the problem statement, the hypothesis and objectives of the research, the population and sample size and sampling strategies that have been used in the research, and the key findings of our research. After that, we will have to analyze the key findings together and go through the problems that were identified after analyzing the key findings, and then list out practical solutions of the problems that were identified, and then go through skills that contributed in the research. And after that, at the end, we will see a conclusion and recommendation to different organizations and the government. Starting with the motivation. As we know, Rwanda aims to become a high-income country with a high standard of living for its citizens by 2050. So a laudable progress for improving the well-being of both women and men and boys and girls has been noticed. So the research presents a status of key enhancers that are still needed to be made in gender inclusion and social transformation for the well-being of women. So the reason of addressing this missing gap are that Rwandan community still need to ensure that every individual has equal opportunities to make the most from their living and their talent. It is also in our belief that no one should be or have a poor life chance because of the way they were born, where they come from, what they believe in, or whatever disability they have, and especially their type of gender. So the problem statement of this research is that in Rwandan government, there is a Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion, a Gender Monitoring Office, and they are all committed to a gender-based budget that ensures the promotion of gender equality. So the government supports programs like Women for Women International Rwanda, which focuses on women of the country and in becoming economically independent. So the government has promoted gender equality in Rwanda using the Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion. And in one significant chance, women have been given the same right as men to inherit land and in other factors like government posts, military, and education. However, there is still a need to fill the gap of laudable progress for improving the well-being of both men and women to be noticed or noticeable in an international scale. So this research presents the key or the enhancers that are still needed to be made in gender inclusion and social transformation for well-being of women. So going to the hypothesis and objectives of this research, and starting with the hypothesis, the segregation of labor market agreeably increases gender-specific labor supply within a segment over and above what will be optimal. In bending employment and self-selection based on the type of gender. So the objectives of this research is to identify the state of gender equality policy implementation in Rwanda, and then demonstrate that gender inequality exists within our households, workplaces, and in society, and therefore develop a way to reduce barriers to personal and economic development created by sexism or gender discrimination. So the sample size and population and sample strategy that have been used in this research is that the, the study population of research are women. Why women is because the research or uh, the gender inequality is basically made, or through years we have seen that it was made to women, and we wanted to hear from women. We wanted to hear from what they have to say about what is happening to them in Kimirongo sector, Gasabo district, specifically in Rwanda. So during this research, a sample random sampling strategy applied whereby population has an equal chance of inclusion in the sample, and each one of the possible sample has the same probability of being selected. So in Kimirongo in sector, Nyagato cell, especially in Butwari community, which is Sibo in Kinyarwanda, the total population reached to the number of 44, and based on the target population and the sample size was calculated based on the following formula, which N is a sample size, P, the total number of employees, and E, the margin cells. So we have found that the sample size will be 40 people for this research. So going with the first key finding, this table demonstrate the cases that we have, the cases of respondent that we have been having in this research. So we have named the cases or the respondents with letters going or respecting their confidentiality, or respecting their privacy. So as you can see, there are women, and we didn't limit ourselves with any age. We started from teenage to old people. And as you can see, it's in the range of 80 to 60 years old. And the education level was not also limited. As you can see, we have bachelor's, secondary, which means secondary diploma, and master's degrees, but PhD degrees. And also we have in the respondent those who have never been in school. And also for their occupation, we didn't limit ourselves. We go through any kind of occupation or any kind of job employment that they have. Even those who are students were included in the research. So the following table demonstrates the number of time the respondent responded to the question in the interview and the level in which they will be able to go through the interview question. So basically, the research was made with tools like interview, which are group interview, and small interview with the different group based on their ages, and also survey which were filled on internet. So as you can see, the person who went through the question with a low percentage is the case B with 40%, and two people went through the research 100%, and only one person went 2 times and 100% with all the question, and make sure that she answered and have clear understanding of what she is being responding to the research during the questions. So starting with the graphs, this is the first graph in the left shows how the age or depending on their age, how they manage to answer the question. So as you can see, from 80 years old to 24, they start to answer the question at the rate or the percentage of 55.56%. And from 25 to 34, they started to answer the question at the percentage of 33.30%, and 35 to 44 and above started to answer the question to 11%. So the second graph was basically about the question if gender inequality still, if they still believe that in gender inequality is still a problem in Rwanda. So 55.5 from 56% answered with a yes, which shows, which make us think really about the objectives and the questions that we asked ourselves in the research. and 44% 0.44 say that no, there is still no gender inequality in Rwanda. So going with the third and fourth graph. So the first one was, is there uh, a change after the implementation of gender equality policy in Rwanda? So 88.89% answered yes. Yes, there is a lot of change after the implementation of gender equality policy in Rwanda, and 11.11% says that no, there is a little bit of change that is still needed to be made to achieve that really improvement. So the third graph was about if in at workplaces or at school and at our community, there are still cases of gender-based injustices, and 33.3% answered with a yes, which is a high rate for us, and 55.56% answered that no, there is no such as gender injustice in our places. But we are going to focus on the 33% who answered with the yes, and why would they answer by that? So going on the following the following graphs, which is the pie chart, um, we asked the respondent if they are willing to see change in the implementation of the law at their schools, at the workplaces, at the society, and 33.33% answered with a yes, and 44.44% answered with a no. So this other chat was about if they were given a chance to to be in a place where where they could change anything about the gender in Rwanda, or how it's implemented in schools, in workplaces, and community, in our household. Will they have work a lot? Will they have to be will they have to put all the energy to make their change? And 55.56% said yes, they will be there. They will work hard for it to be improving, especially for the well-being of women, because they have found out that most women haven't been given chances like men in work, on work fields, in school, or in households. So the problem that we identified after analyzing all the data we collected from the field is that, considering the fact that 55.56% of respondents agree to the fact that women and men in Rwanda are not observed in the same way on some fields, and 44.44% believe that there is still no gap to be filled. In comparison of those percentages, it's clear enough that there is still a gap be filled. And the main problem identified in the research is there is still a gap in the implementation of the gender policy and in gender equality policy. And comparing to the finding of Gender Monitor Office research and the state gender equality in Rwanda, which radically shows that there is still no need or other gap needed to be filled. However, we do believe, according to what the respondents have been telling us, that some have met different problems at the household, like unpaid care work, and also they don't have the same opportunities as male. We believe that some work field and education institution, um, there is still need of gender balance, and it still need to be considered. So after identifying our problem, here are practical solutions that can be used in different places. So we need to pay and expect the same salary for equal work. According to the United Nations data, women earn an average of 70 to 90 cents for every dollar earned by a male. which is a high rate and which is not which shouldn't be which shouldn't be which should be considered. As a result, it is critical and crucial to examine and promote organizations that provide same wage, perks, and incentives to employees in comparable roles. If it is not occurring in your company or your organization, mobilize resource and relationships to require or request salary transparency or equal pay audit, as has already occurred in several corporations in United States, the United Kingdom, and other European nations. The second practical solution was providing IoT-based trainings. The government or local authorities can introduce to Rwandan citizen training on avoiding biases and discrimination basing on cultural myth or gender discrimination. So after that, after the research that we have made, there are some skills acquired or used during the research process, which is the decision making skills. So while going through our research, we have had to make decision on how we are going to conduct the research, when we are going to conduct it, and critical thinking that help us to solve problems or issues um, or ethical concerns that were encountered during the research, and planning skills that help us to know when, where, and who is going to be in charge of whatever is going to be in the research, and communication skills which are allowed us to present and document every responses that we get from different cases or different respondents. Negotiation skills were acquired where some respondents wouldn't be able to respond to some questions, so we had to negotiate with them and ask them politely were to be the part of this amazing research. And time management, which allowed us to make sure that every steps made in the research allowed us to be on time and be precise. So at the end of this presentation, we allowed you, or we agreed to give you a conclusion and recommendation. So in conclusion, contribution of gender equality policy for the well-being of women in Rwanda was found to be improving as days go by, but findings in this research show that there's still a big gap to be filled, especially on the side of careers and fair opportunities to all. So after that, we will have to recommend to local authorities that citizens must be helped by experts in terms of having a person nearby who can help in case of emergency, and also who can follow up any cases that happen regarding gender inequality. So citizens should participate in different trainings that help them to have a better understanding on gender-based idea or content provided to them. So local authorities should also introduce more course on gender information during student seminaries, especially in Gando, because that's where students have to build themselves, or the generation of Rwanda has to build themselves. So there have also to be um, policies or main ideas that are introduced to those students. So recommendation to gender monitoring office and different NGOs that regard women rights or help in or fight for the women's right. So those organization institutions like gender monitoring office should have a center and trainings on gender equality policy. So they should also create projects that base specifically on gender-based information for purpose of informing both genders, men and women, on gender balance. So thank you very much for going with us through this finding and through this research. We hope that this will be helpful for our community, for our nation, and Rwanda in general. Thank you very much.